And I think that's why God is saying, forgive. Give me 10% of the hurt. Give me the first of the hurt. Cry to me, come to me.
Jesus.
And it's hard for us to do that because sometimes our money is tied. And what does the money do for us? Oh, it feeds that comfort. So we can never give God the first because we're going straight to the liquor. We're going straight to the video games, straight to the masturbation,
Yeah.
straight to the sex outside of marriage and all this crazy stuff, right? So I think that's why we need to heal those wounds and go to God first about those things that are really pressing on us and just forgive. And by that, how do you forgive? You go to God first with the first hurt. What's up, family? Welcome to our, we don't know if this is gonna be the first one. Actually, let's just say it's the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one.
First episode.
First episode, way overdue. Man, just God called us a year ago to do this, and here we are answering the phone call a year later.
Bring.
What'd you say?
Bring.
Bring.
Bring ding. Whatever it is.
Bring. Yeah, we got the phone says bring.
Right? It's bring. Bring it.
But yeah, man, we're glad to be here. It's been a journey,
Yeah.
to say the least. Yeah, so let's get into it. Welcome to the Healing Through Transparency podcast. My name is Xandre. If it's the first time we're meeting.
My name's Shawna Pray.
Amen. And so, yeah, man, we don't even know how to do this. We're not even doing a structure type of thing. This is just us being raw, transparent, and being ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
what we hope is that through our transparency, you learn how to be transparent.
Yeah.
Soon we'll be promoting the community that way you can tap in with us and other people who are like-minded and want to learn how to be more transparent, express themselves. But as for right now, we podcasting.
Yeah.
We podcasting, right? So, yeah, let's get into it, man.
Okay. So, y'all, today we're going to be talking about forgiveness.
Mm.
Woo! Just the word alone, it can be heavy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So today we're going to be talking about forgiveness, and we hear the sirens in the back. Hopefully you can't hear them, but we're just going to keep going. So today we're talking about forgiveness, y'all. And the other day we were having a conversation and we're like, bruh, this should be recorded. We should, a lot of times we'll be talking to each other and we're like, man, we need to record this.
Yeah.
By the way, y'all, if you don't know, Xandre and I are married.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're a married couple and
I
we have transparent conversations at home every day with each other, and just from, having these conversations, being able to talk to each other, we've gotten a lot of healing. We've gotten a lot of healing through just being honest with each other. And we wanted to bring that to the forefront. We feel like we are led to bring this to you guys. And as Andre said, like show other people how to be transparent.
Yeah.
So the other day we were talking about forgiveness and talking about, how do we kind of work through forgiveness, because we were saying how, in the prayer in the Bible, it talks about, forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass us. Mm-hmm. And that it's like a daily thing, because before I thought forgiveness was like a yearly thing. Like every year or whenever I get, when I feel offended, that's when I'm a forgive, but I didn't really have it as a system in my mind, like daily. I need to daily cleanse what might be lingering in my body, in my mind, in my soul. So what's been your experience with forgiveness? Because I know that you share about it in your testimony and all that, but yeah, I think it's really important to dive into that.
Yeah, man. For me with forgiveness, so I guess, we got time, so we might as well just share a bit of like my journey with it.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know my story, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at the age of 15, I believe, due to a lot of childhood trauma that I did not work through because I didn't know how to. There wasn't a mental health, and working through your trauma wasn't something that I was taught, being raised in a Haitian community, and environment and culture, and so
Yeah.
most Caribbean, dynamics cultures, we don't tend to talk about those type of things. So I didn't know that was a thing, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, age 9, molested 4 times by cousins. In age 11, first time being introduced to suicide. My best friend, Lamar, he ended up, killing himself. And age 12, I witnessed several times my mom tried to suicidal attempts in front of me as well. Age 13, 13 to 14, I contemplated suicide many times, up to the point where I was going to attempt it. And I recorded I didn't record a song at the time, but I wrote a song. Well, I wrote a suicide letter to my mother, expecting it to be a song one day. But, I was like, if she reads this, whatever, whatever happens, happens. But praise God, that didn't happen. But by the time I was contemplating to actually do the act and be very serious about it, that's when, boom, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So in a sense, I'd say, the disease kind of saved me.
Wow.
Life, because God knows where I'll be if I didn't. But yeah, so with all that, just to say, I said all that just to share, like, even with the excuse me, even with the testimony of overcoming all those things, It had to do with forgiveness.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to forgive the molesters. I had to learn how to forgive best friend for killing himself. I had to forgive myself for thinking I had anything to do with it. I had to learn how to forgive, most importantly, my mother, which was a big benefactor to that entire journey for me. And it was hard, man. You know, like witnessing certain things that I didn't understand, like having life insurance on your name without conversation being had with you, you know, at your lowest point. Like I remember just crawling in the kitchen floor when nobody was home and just trying to find something to eat, like literally like just trying to get the strength because I was like, I was probably under 90 pounds, you know, 90 pounds at the age of like what 23, so young and stuff like that. And so yeah, man, and just having to like navigate all that stuff, those traumas and all the verbal abuse I've dealt with while I was still fighting a disease and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, so I had to learn how to forgive my mother, man. It was hard. It was not easy at all. And I'll say for me, what clicked was understanding that forgiveness has nothing to do with them. It has a lot to do with you. And and yeah, I didn't. It sounds so easy when you say it, right? Like it sounds so like understandable, but the depths of that is like it's really has nothing to do with them and for you because it's like depending on if you're a believer in God in Christ or not, um, you know that that determines your walk, that
Yeah.
determines your decisions, everything you do. And for me as a believer, I had to like, I was like God, like I don't want to give this. I feel like I had to hold on to something. I had to protect myself. Like that was my form of security was not letting go of the wrongs that I've witnessed done onto me. And so God even said in his word, like, you know, if you don't forgive, I can't forgive you. And I just couldn't have that. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I can't live like that. Like, how can I spend the rest of my life serving God, giving my life up for God, and still doing one of the things that he asked me to do? Like, you know, although it's hard, it's just like, just do it and see what happens. You know, it's kind of like what's the worst that can happen, listening to God.
Yeah.
So,
How did you know that you had to forgive? Like, was there a moment where you're like, yo, I gotta let this go?
yeah, it was the disease. Disease.
Okay.
It kept my body in dis-ease. And
Yeah.
I feel like if we all felt I guess, a sense of physical consequence to us doing things that God asked us not to do, we would be more quicker to be like,
To drop that
let it
habit.
go, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the disease in me made me not want to hold on any longer. It was painful, man.
Yeah, for you it was like a physical manifestation of just trauma and everything and the years of like piling up on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes, as you said, like the sometimes when you don't have something in front of your face to be like, yo, there's a problem.
Hmm.
But there could be a lot of little things that we overlook sometimes. Like in my case, dealing with anxiety for many years, I feel like I held in so many things. You know, my parents divorced at it when I was a young child,
Right.
and I held that in, and I felt like that was like a heartbreak for me.
Mm.
So and then going through so many things growing up, trying to figure out myself, I felt like, and I'll get into that more, but just for this point, I felt like the anxiety was that physical manifestation of not forgiving, not letting go, and more of like not forgiving myself, because I was like, what if I make a mistake, what if I, do something wrong, or is this person going to look at me a certain way? Last time they looked at me a certain way, last time they didn't appreciate my input or whatever like that. But I feel like the anxiety is one of those examples.
So you feel like anxiety is pretty much your dis-ease in a sense, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure. I feel like and these are things that we're working through. We know that God has healed us. We know that we're free, but we understand that there's a process, like there's a role that we have to take in.
yeah.
So for me, I feel like that's the lack of ease
Mm.
that shows up in my life, like the anxiety, the stress about it. And for me, when it comes to forgiveness, for a long time, like for months, babe, like like working through things with my situation was with my dad.
Right.
So I'll just explain more because this is a whole new thing, y'all. So
Yeah.
for me, like I worked with my dad very closely. I was managed by him in a music sense. So I was a music artist. I'm still a music artist, but I was working as a music artist with him.
Yeah.
And working in such a close contact with someone like that who's your parent and your manager and like, someone who is dealing with the money side of things.
Yeah.
So me putting my trust in that situation and things not working out in the way that I thought they would.
Mhm.
It caused a lot of hurt in me, and I thought I forgave because I just dismissed what I was feeling.
Mm.
So this is going into another thing now, but for me, it showed up as I thought I forgave because I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna address it. I'm just not going to. continue to like process things in my mind. I'm gonna just leave it alone.
Mhm.
It hurt, it was whatever, and I forgave God, but God was showing me like forgiveness is like, okay, if we break down the word forgiveness, and break it out, forgive, and then you switch it, give for. What am I giving this pain inside of me for? Like God wants me to give it to him in exchange for something. So that's how he broke it down to me to say, hey, Shauna, I know you think that suppressing this thing is you forgiving it, but forgiving it is actually taking it out of your body, not suppressing it more inside of your body, not ignoring the hurt more, not eating more on top of it, but actually giving it out, crying it out, talking to me, forgiving that person and working through it every day. But yeah,
So interesting. So my question is, do you feel like you've forgiven your dad then? Uh,
I feel like I have. I
So
feel like it's
actually, no,
a
I'm sorry. My actual question,
okay.
that's my follow-up question. But my question is, did you forget?
Oh yeah, the forgive and forget boy.
If you know, because like I feel a lot of people, because this popped up on, like, we were in this marriage Facebook group, and there's like a lot of people in there. So
Yeah.
one of the questions that popped up that actually sparked the idea of
Yes.
the podcast
Okay, talk
was,
about it.
is it the thing to forgive and forget? Like, how do you forgive and forget? And I saw many different opinions, and people were just sharing like, oh, you don't forgive and forget, and you do forgive and forget, and I
Hmm.
just felt like, man, like there's so many unhealed wounds in
Yeah.
this group. And I'm like, dang, this is crazy. So I was like, man, we should probably do a podcast, because maybe I could just submit the link in there, and then people could watch it rather than just trying to get my own 2 cents in a description that people are probably not gonna read. So yeah, so my question to you, with everything you just shared about, working with your father, and that close dynamic and having expectations,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure on both sides as well. But in your experience, do you feel like you've forgotten yet? Have you
I feel
gotten to
like
that place yet?
so that's the thing that we were like trying to toy with. Like, what does forgetting it mean? What is it like? Everyone has their own definition of like, I forgot what happened. And for me, I felt betrayed. I felt used. Like I felt taken advantage of. So the forgetting of that for me, I forget it in the sense of like um I don't forget how I felt.
Yeah.
I don't because I would suppress it. So I would just be like, nah, nah, whatever. Like it's your fault.
Mm.
But I don't forget how it felt because that's a part of my testimony now. But I forget, how do I put this? Because yeah, I just focus on how I felt. And even though God is bringing me through that healing,
Mhm.
but I forget labeling that person as only that, as only what I felt like they did.
So you pretty much, you forgot the emotion that you I guess you forgot how you would perceive them.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like forgetting
So your perspective has changed, but you don't forget how the event made you feel.
how it made me feel. But
Okay.
also too, when it comes to like, because that's the whole thing with boundaries, right? Because
Right.
people could be like, forgive and forget and never have boundaries
Well,
and never put up your, you know what I'm saying? Never put up your guard. But it's like
right.
you're forgetting. Like I feel like the forgetting, um, in a healthy way is like allowing that person into the freedom of who God says they are, but not forgetting how you felt about it, how it hurt you. Okay, heal from that and still allow God to do his thing. If they change, if they renew, whatever. But sorry, I think I
No,
forgot your
no.
question, but
Yeah, my question was, did you feel like you got into that place of forgetting?
yeah, for sure. I've gone to that place. And this is the thing with forgiveness, like that I realized forgiveness is by faith, right? So you're forgiving out of your mouth,
Hmm.
even though your emotions haven't caught up with it yet. So every day, if I have like a feeling about it, a trigger about it, I'm like, Shauna, I forgive. I say it out loud, like I forgive this person, Lord God. I pray for them, and I actually remind myself that I have forgave them because sometimes it doesn't feel like, but I can't go based on
Now that you say it that way, it makes me feel like that seems like more of an affirmation than forgiving.
well,
It
I'm
feels
just
like you're just
reminding
telling
myself
yourself.
of the truth. I'm just reminding myself, not like kind of like affirming me in it. I'm just saying, hey, I forgive them. I forget. I'm reminding my body, my emotions that I forgave them and deal with your emotions with God, not in relation to them. Like they can't solve
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like I saw something that said like you're not responsible for the trauma, but you're, responsible for the healing
Yeah,
part of it,
definitely.
if that makes sense. But what about with the forgiving and forgetting? Like what does that sound like to you?
So I definitely had bro, I had a experience with that. Because for me, I was still living with my mother. It's different for you because you weren't
Yeah.
living with
I didn't
your
have to
father, your
be
dad at
that
the
person.
time. So I have to actively be in the forgiving process and still have boundaries within the same environment. Like
That's different.
that's very rare and
Yeah,
hard, and
that's different.
it's kind of like how do you heal in a toxic environment, right? And I think I've answered that question before when we had our old HET calls.
Yeah.
I forgot who asked me that, but
Well, that's what, yeah.
so
Mm.
how you heal? How do you heal in a toxic environment? One, you have to just drain your triggers. You know, you have to figure out, okay, what is triggering me, who is triggering me, and by draining your triggers, is a course that I'll eventually be releasing in a book as well.
Yes, sir.
But shameless plug. But drain is actually an acronym. It's DRAIN, which means disrupt repetitively anything increasing negativity. And so disrupt, I had to disrupt everything in that environment that was causing me to feel more negative emotions. Like, for example, my mom, she often just naturally is verbally abusive. She just chooses, it's like her inclination to express herself is always just the negative. It's not, it's barely ever positive. And and then there's so many other factors to it. I had to learn how to understand her through the process of trying to heal
That,
myself,
that
right?
too.
Because that's really the main part of forgiveness. Is not
Yes.
when it says it's not for the person, it's for you. It's how can I understand this person so that I can maneuver life
Yes.
freely, right? And to have peace with all people.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I had to drain everything. Like, I mean, I had to disrupt everything. But literally, how I would do that. So she's cussing and making noise, banging dishes from just I don't know, having to do homework,
Just feeling stressed, feeling
yeah,
like,
stress and all that other stuff. And she want to take it out on me. I'll put on some music. That's one sensor of my body that is getting disrupted.
and what type of music too? That I think
Well,
that's
obviously Christian, you know, either Christian hip hop or worship gospel music, things of that nature.
something that's life.
So yeah, something that's giving me positive energy, right? And the next, so you got to disrupt two senses. So obviously for me it was my ears because that's exactly what I'm receiving from, and then my eyes. So I either watch something or I play a video game, something to you know to make me feel better. So it could be Mario, it could be you know whatever you enjoy playing.
Yeah.
That's between you and God and your own conviction. I ain't gonna tell you what to play, but yeah, just things of that nature, man. And obviously repetitively, you keep doing this activity as you go.
Yeah.
Um, anything and just kind of discovering what that anything is. Could be a person, it could be even the video game triggering you. Like I wouldn't recommend playing a violent game necessarily because it can be triggering. You might now start to open up yourself to demons because those demons might be like, yeah, pretend like the person you're shooting is that person, and you don't want to invoke that in your spirit because now you think that you actually drain the trigger, but then you also are opening yourself up to demonic spirits of anger.
Yeah.
And now you might start having those crazy thoughts like, oh my God, why am I thinking of killing this person? Or why am I thinking, you know, so it's just you don't want that. So I'd recommend something that's just more strategy wise, or you know, maybe NBA 2K, like play some basketball, things of that
Yeah.
nature.
Play something that's like, you know, encouraging your gifts, like things that
Right,
you're good at.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, increasing negativity, you just want to increase the opposite, and the negativity, just again redefining what it is and creating those boundaries and guarding your heart at all
Mhm.
costs so
Guard
that
that.
you can peace, so you can have yourself, so you can be at peace, man. You know, so
That's so good.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that because I think that is something like what I was saying before, like Tiffany Montgomery, if y'all
Mhm.
check her out. Like one of the things that she was saying about forgiveness is that she creates a system in her heart
Mm,
so that every time she feels offended, because we're gonna be offended just by driving outside, just by
absolutely.
you can be offended all you want,
Yeah,
but you like creating systems in your heart that okay, if someone offends me, if someone ticks me off, whatever it is, have patience and all that stuff. But like, have a system where you're gonna say, okay, I'm going to forgive. I'm not gonna let this hour pass by, this day, whatever, these minutes pass by without me bringing this to God and forgiving them, even if I don't feel like it. But you're doing it by faith. You're starting that process in your heart because you want to cleanse out that heart and bring it to God. You know what I'm saying? Like forgiving is not saying the other person was right. It's not saying
at all.
the other person shouldn't have consequences for what they did to you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just saying I'm going to deal with this with God and you know let go of what I perceive them to be. And it's hard, you know, like
Of course.
it's hard. It's not easy to do this, but I think that's why God specifically asks us to do this because he knows it's
Yeah, and I'll be real, man. Like I'm still working through my forgiveness process.
yeah.
This is not something that you just it's a one size fit all type of thing or one time fit all,
Mm-mm.
right? It's a ongoing event because like even like how do you forgive your molesters? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I can't answer that question fully. I don't know the answer right now for that, but I know to get to a place where you can know that hey, I was molested, and I can still navigate life and forgive this person and still live my life and be at peace and not feel triggered and stuff like that. Yeah, that obviously requires guarding your heart, letting go, and spending time with God and having Him work through those areas. Because there's, and I hate sometimes when Christians say, spend time with God, da da da, because it sounds so cliche. It's like, okay, I've done that. Like that didn't work for me, or like what am I supposed to expect, some magical experience? Like no, like that just means living your journey, like living your experience through, like crying, right, journaling it out, being frustrated with God, yelling at God, do whatever you gotta do, get that thing out, because those emotions are trapped in there. So that's what I mean by going to God, because if you do that with a person, can you imagine, like that's a lot for another person to take on just with you,
Yeah.
even if they're your therapist and you're paying them whatever. But because even therapists, they have to go through their therapy sessions too, like from hearing
Mhm.
about all this trauma, some crazy stuff that they probably never heard or experienced before.
Yeah.
And not to say like, that your situation is their fault and, all the other stuff, but that's just the reality, right? We're all here trying to help each other. But I think the only person that can handle the weight of humanity's problems is God.
Yeah.
It's not another human being. Sometimes, we have the grace and blessings that we have great friends and pastors, etc., who can help us. But the reality is they,
We need
they,
Jesus.
somebody can get traumatized from hearing your trauma.
That,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I don't think we
I
think
can.
about that sometimes. Obviously, it's hard to, but to be more mindful, I think yeah, that's what I mean by saying spend time with God about it, because
Yeah.
that is the only person that knows you and knows how to help you 100%
Yeah.
get through that situation. So
And I don't think I don't think you like necessarily hate that, but I think you just love strategy. I think you just love giving people actual
okay, I would just say I really dislike it. Like I'm just y'all start to know me after a couple episodes. I'll just be saying
Oh no, y'all are gonna figure out like our dynamic. We're a
yeah,
very unique dynamic.
yeah. Very
Okay.
frustrating how Christians say that, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Sorry for the switcheroo. If you notice, there's a difference in the settings or how we look right now. We still it's the first podcast, but still figuring things out, and it's only both of us. So this is what you're getting.
So let's jump right back in.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just talking about forgiveness, obviously. One of the things I wanted to bring up was this scripture, and I don't know if you ever heard it in this way, so I wanted to bring it up. So this is John 20, verse 22 to 23 in the message version. This is kind of out of context, but I like how they put the sentence. I
Okay.
like how the sentence says. It says, Then he took a deep breath and breathed into them, receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive someone's sins, they're gone for good. If you don't forgive sins, what are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with them? And I felt like, whoa, like the way he put it was like that unforgiveness was a substance.
Mm,
Like it's something that exists in you. Like if you don't forgive, what are you gonna do with them?
yeah.
But this was talking about something else. But I just love how that's like. What are your first thoughts when you hear that?
Initially, nothing. Be real with you.
Be real.
Initially, nothing.
Just that last sentence.
But the last part was
Yeah,
interesting.
just that.
What was it again? Like,
It says, if you don't forgive sins, what are you gonna do with them?
yeah, I mean, it's just real. It's like, yeah, it's very thought provoking. It's like, man, what can I do with with this unforgiveness?
Yeah,
The only thing you're gonna realize is that it's gonna keep destroying you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
There's no end destination. Like, I always say, I think I've said this before, like, you have to delete the evidence. Like, it's like holding onto a memory card in your back pocket with God, and you're like, okay, God, thanks for tossing my sins from the east to the west, as far as the east to the west.
yeah.
And then, but when He's expecting you to do the same in return for somebody else of their wrongdoing, right? And you're like, all right, but I'm gonna just put this in my back pocket just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real, and I'm gonna say it for y'all, since some of us we think about it, but we don't say it because we feel like, maybe if I don't say it, it won't hurt God as much. And we probably low key are saying in our hearts, I don't trust you enough. Just
Yeah,
like God, you're too nice. God, you're just too much of a sweetheart. You're just that one friend that easily forgives people, and I'm not with that.
yeah.
So I'm gonna put it in my back pocket, and
I'm gonna deal with it.
I'm gonna deal with it just in case you don't deal with it the way I want you to deal with it.
Yeah,
Because
man.
real talk, like sometimes we'll be like, see somebody who did us dirty, and then they get blessed, and you're like, what? Like you bless this person? Why would you bless this person? And we don't understand why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we're not living their life, we're not walking in their shoes and all that other stuff. But we're like, man, like, so you're gonna bless? It's like it just feels like a betrayal from a friend. It's like, oh, so you're gonna talk to her again after you seen what she did to me?
Is that your friend?
And he's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, so we can't be cool. But the fear factor,
Mm.
the fear factor is that he's God.
Okay,
So like,
okay.
why would you not want to be cool with God? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You just touched something. You just touched it.
Well,
You're like, what
tell
is it? Tell
tell me.
me. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Elaborate. No, because you just said like what you. I don't even know what you just said, but I know what you
What?
just. Sorry, I just said. But what it made me think is that when you have unforgiveness, it also blocks. It also like interrupts your intimacy with God,
Absolutely.
as you said, because it's like I don't trust you, God. Like I don't trust that God that you're going to deal with this the way that it should be dealt with. And if I let it go, that means I'm self-sabotaging. That means I'm not dealing with it the right way, you know, but it's actually the opposite. God is literally, he says, vengeance is mine. Let me deal with things.
So real life situation, right?
Yeah.
Transparency.
Yeah.
So we were, um, I'm trying to use my words lightly.
Yeah.
We were heavily bothered
Okay.
because I want to say persecuted, but I don't want to give that much power to the person's annoyance.
Okay.
So at the early stage of our marriage,
Harassed.
to sure, whatever. At the early stage of our marriage, just getting married, her father and her, some side of the family did not agree with it for their own beliefs and whatever. We were heavily bothered
Yeah.
a lot. Like I'm just not bothered, not personally, like, oh my God, I'm bothered by this person, but like bothered by like, here, I'm gonna keep doing this thing to you to annoy you, to bother you, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so there was an event that happened where Shauna went to the market and she kind of had like this fight or freeze situation.
Yeah.
And so she froze because she saw somebody on her side of her family that did not agree with the marriage. And it,
Or I just, it wasn't, I don't even know if they didn't agree, but I just saw someone in that group
okay, yeah,
and it,
sure.
yeah.
So you saw somebody outside, well, in that family
Ye-
place,
Yeah.
right? And it caused her to freeze. And
It's
so
like, I'm
she was like triggered. So,
triggered. Yeah, triggered.
especially in the midst of like so much different things. So we're talking about like police getting involved, harassing emails and with like lawyers and just
Yeah.
stupidness, just a whole mess. And so yeah, so all that's going on and she sees this person, right? And so now for me in that situation, and several other things too, but we haven't discussed it, so I'm not gonna say it on camera. But there's some times where I felt like she did not defend me as her husband. And so I would keep things in my back pocket
Hmm.
later on, it's like to move on from this event that took place where I felt like, hey, I wasn't protected enough as your husband. I feel like I shouldn't have to be, fighting your family because they're your family. You got to speak up, right? So, and so, like, yeah, I put that in my back pocket so that later time, if something like that came up again, and it's like, all right, God, I'll let you handle it, but I'm gonna put it in my back pocket just in case if you give her too much grace, or just in case if you would handle the situation how I wouldn't, you know,
Like if there wasn't no solution that was vindicated,
yeah,
like
like if I didn't feel like vengeance was mine
yeah,
after,
it's fine. Yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as he promised, like, oh, vengeance is
yeah.
mine, vengeance is the Lord. It's
It was
like,
out of a hurt. You were
yeah,
hurt,
I
and
was
it felt
hurt or offended.
yeah,
And it's like, all right, well, if I feel like you did not do that, then I'm going to hold this in my back pocket just so I can remember. And so that I can also remind you just in case you forgot, because you tend to throw things from the east and the west.
yeah.
And I'm here north, south. So, like, I need you to, like, I know you're a man of many
Visuals,
directions, but
yeah.
I need you to, be here with me. And so, yeah, I used to put it in my pocket as well. And so that's what I mean by that. Like, that wasn't healthy because now if she ever got a froze up situation again, I'm like, you see, let me remind you, Shauna, you didn't defend me, blah blah, at that time, and are you gonna do it again? And it's like that's not healthy at all. That's not even safe for her.
Mm.
So
So it was like unforgiveness that was wrapped in um feeling safe enough with the person. It was unforgiveness wrapped in something else. I don't know what
I
the
would
word is,
say
but what?
unforgiveness wrapped in security, because
Yeah,
the only way I'd be secure enough to move on past the situation and live life with you
was if I
was if I
acted that way,
yeah, if
right?
you acted the way I'd want,
Yeah.
or if I if you act the way I want, or if you didn't, or if God didn't orchestrate, I don't know, if God didn't fix the situation to a point of reference or a liking that felt comfortable enough for me, I now have it in my back pocket so I can sin later.
Like evidence.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
the
see,
evidence is
okay,
like destroy all the evidence. That's where I'm getting at. Like
okay.
destroy all the evidence that you have so that you can have peace
Mm-hmm.
in all areas with your husband, wife, friend,
Family,
family,
relatives, people on the street.
and it doesn't mean to forget. It's like, God, I trust you enough that you'll remind me of
Ooh,
what took place, So yeah,
sir.
hey,
That is so good.
I'm sir.
That is so good because it's like, God, I'm gonna let this go. I'm gonna repeat it again. I know I do this
I
all.
mean,
I
yeah, hey, it
repeat
is what
things.
it is.
I'm gonna let this go and trust that you're gonna remind me in the time that needs to in order for me to build those boundaries or be safe or be sound. That is crazy.
And it's like, yeah, it's like the GPS. That's how I picture it in my head right now. Like trusting the GPS along the way. The GPS is gonna let you know, hey, you have a turn coming up in 600 meters,
Yeah,
right? It's not gonna tell you like so far away, hey, you just to remind you of what happened
yeah.
when you did this reroute. Or,
Hmm.
just don't forget this turn again. It's gonna tell you the same time.
Yep.
And so it's like, are you patient enough, or do you trust God enough as you trust your GPS when you're driving your car?
Yeah.
Often the times we don't, because we could track a GPS, we can't track God.
Hmm. That's good.
Yeah, man.
Okay. I kind of ran out of questions
Well,
for this specific right now.
right, yeah. So I mean, we ran out of questions, and that's it.
Yeah, one other thing actually,
Oh,
let me
okay.
bring up.
There you go.
You mentioned before, like, God showing you more about the person. Sometimes God will show you more about the person so that you can understand them,
Yeah,
Um, and one of the things, like, for me specifically, is like and I'm talking about the situation with my dad because this is a thing that's been ongoing healing, even though I'm no contact with, him.
yeah,
And so what God did for me was show me my dad as a child
yeah.
and the things that I know about him. So help me understand abandonment, things that went on in his life, or parents not being around, or things like that, where it's like, okay, you can understand why this person may act the way they do because of certain traumas in their life, and kind of understanding that it's not, I didn't do anything to make them act that way,
Right,
but they were acting that way because of their own trauma and not being able to get healing in that sense. And I think that also helped me to heal. That helped me to forgive, because I'm like, okay, I'm also not forgiving out of people pleasing, out of like, let me just forgive because I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to upset people. That's how it was before. But now it's like I forgive because I understand that everybody, we're kind of all on a very same playing
bro.
field.
We are all traumatized. We are all dealing with unhealed wounds, and it's like
Yeah.
oftentimes we go through a lot of crap in our life, but our parents don't even probably know about them until we share about them.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah, and them too.
it's now changing though, right?
Yeah,
Now today's
the
generation
22.
is now like giving more time to their children and just being there and being
Yeah.
available to. They're treating the children how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we didn't have that type of luxury. To an extent, I guess, but it wasn't a healthy one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think what you're saying is key. Like forgiveness, and I know people hate this because they avoid saying it. They're like, oh, I'm not gonna forgive them because they think it's more about them. And until you say, oh, it's about you, they're like, how? I
Mhm.
think forgiveness is for you, but it is about them at the same time.
Yeah, it's
Like it's yeah, forgiveness is about them, but it's also for you.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? It is about them. It is about what they did to you.
Yeah.
It is about what happened to them, but it's for you and it's happening for you because what you get from the process, you actually do both, is,
Hmm.
hey, I have now more understanding of why you did that. And now I have an opportunity to be more compassionate.
Compassion, yeah.
And it may not be a compassionate where you like immediately forgive them, but it is a compassion that starts to be a seed into the journey of your forgiveness for them. And
Yeah.
so, like, for example, I was able to forgive my mother because I understood as a child she was abused. Some things that happened to her was like she was tied to a tree and beaten. And so when I hear about that, I'm like, wow, like she probably never sat down with a therapist, or she probably never even sat down and just spoke about it, about how much it hurt her. And not just one time, I'm talking about many times, getting it all out. And so
Yeah.
she didn't know how to communicate any other way to me when she would beat me. She probably was having those flashbacks, right? Maybe subconsciously.
Mhm.
And so it's like a lot of those built up anger and resentment towards almost so many different things that happened to her is
Yeah.
giving me more compassion. Like now when I hear it, when I hear the cursing or the crying or whatever, I'm like not so triggered because one, I drained them, and then
Hmm.
two, I now have a deeper understanding of like, yo, like this is my mom's, and she was tied. I'm just picturing my mom as a
Oh
little
my God.
kid being tied to a tree and beaten, and so it's just like, wow, like nobody deserves that. I
Yeah.
understand. I don't agree with what you've done to me, but I understand why you may have done that because you didn't know better.
Yeah.
You don't have. You're not healed. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's like seeing a crazy person on the street and they do something crazy to you, or a baby that's angry and doesn't know how to express themselves and they throw something on you. You're not gonna beat an
Right.
infant because
Oh my
you have more
goodness.
understanding. Like, oh my God, okay, like they never been here before,
Hmm.
and so they're just acting out and they need
Yeah.
some guidance. And so yeah,
Yeah, man. And what you say this a lot, like you stop growing at the age of the trauma. You
yeah,
always say that.
you stop growing at the age that the trauma happened to you, man.
Yeah. So it's like seeing people in that way, but still understanding and knowing that you still need boundaries. You still need to be aware of things. You still need to, you know what I'm saying? Understand people
Yeah,
dynamics. But this is a place for when you forgive, you start to grow in your HR, human relations. You know what I'm saying? You start to be able to understand people differently and stuff. So I just think overall forgiveness is very important. It's something that you can literally do every day. Practice it. You do it by faith before you
I think
line up.
forgiveness honestly is about the heart. And
Yeah,
our God literally is always about the heart.
yeah,
And
true.
because how can, and it has a lot, where I'm going with this is like the giving part, right?
Forgiving.
And forgetting,
Yeah.
right? And obviously there is something for you in it.
There
Like
is something for you.
there's
Okay.
always something, and God always is. God is always for you. He's always, so it's like, oh, this is happening to me. No, it's happening for you because what's happening to you requires forgiveness. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
require to forgiveness, or
Mm-hmm.
like it's not happening to me. So, um, I see it like the giving of tithes, right? Like sometimes we 10% to the church. If you have a hard time, if you have a hard time giving tithe, then you have a hard time forgiving
Mm.
because it requires you to give something of you that is hard, that's tied to your heart, right?
Yeah,
The tithing is about heart posture,
yeah,
about principles,
it's tied,
putting
yes.
God first. So how can you put, and I think that's why God is saying, forgive. Give me
Mhm.
10% of the hurt. Give me the first of the hurt. Cry to me, come
Oh,
to me.
Jesus.
And it's hard for us to do that because sometimes our money is tied. And what does the money do for us? Oh, it feeds that comfort. So we can never give God the first because we're going straight to the liquor. We're going straight to the video games, straight to the masturbation,
Yeah.
straight to the sex outside of marriage and all this crazy stuff, right? So I think that's why we need to heal those wounds and go to God first about those things that are really pressing on us and
Yeah.
just forgive. And by that, how do you forgive? You go to God first with the first hurt and
Ooh.
you pour out to him. You cry, you curse, you tell him whatever you got to tell him. There's nothing that God haven't heard from people who don't even believe in him. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? People say Jesus Christ out of swearing for no reason and for whatever reason. And so and it's
He
been
wants
worse.
it
We talk about
all.
Beyonce doing things with her period and all that crazy stuff. So it's like, what can you possibly say to God at this point after
Yeah.
Beyonce?
Yeah.
All people. So it's just like, bro, if you want to call God a mother effer and all that other stuff, he can handle it, bro. You try to say, I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah.
I would not recommend it.
Yeah.
Have
Listen,
have some
don't
fear.
recommend the men
I
this.
do not have some fear of God in you because I
Have some fear of God. Yeah. But what you're saying, just let it out. Don't,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Don't let that hurt. Even if you have unforgiveness against God, like you feel like God let you down. You know what I'm saying? That's normal. That's common for us to be like, God, you let me down. I don't really want to talk to you. I don't really want to mess with you right now. Tell him everything. Literally pour it out, whatever you need to get out. So yeah, babe, it's real. Like it's real.
Yeah.
Had the fear of God, but it's real.
Amen.
Yeah, man. So I kind of wanted to do something, and we're just fleshing it out right now, but like at the end of our podcast, where we can just end it off with a thought, a thing that we've learned from this specific topic or whatever. But in terms of healing, so like healing through, or anything coming to mind?
No, I wish you had
Off the
discussed
fly?
this with me.
It's just off the fly, but if not, it's cool.
Healing through forgiveness. I
Healing through
guess
forgiveness. Yeah, what did heal? So your life before forgiveness and life after, I guess you already went about that, but life after, let's talk about that very quickly. Like, what are some things that come to mind that you can do, your mind, how you feel after being able to practice forgiveness? How do you feel?
I feel like I'm able to hear God more.
Mm,
When I can't, when I'm in my, yeah, like I feel like I'm more connected with God in a place where I've never been before. It gives me
mm,
more access. So I see it like not, it's kind of like being in a marriage,
yeah.
right? We are married, or a relationship for those who are not married. Um, you are in a phrase, whether, regardless it's a friend or a spouse, I feel like for me, if we have certain standards, we have certain rules, just for layman's terms.
Mm.
Um,
Expectations?
yeah, expectations so that we can be at peace with each other, so that I can even want to be desire to be around you and spend time with you and kiki with you and all that other stuff. Can't follow those things, we're gonna have a hard time
Hmm.
being together, no matter how much I love you,
Yeah.
right? No matter how much I care for you. And I feel like if God is saying, hey, I love you so much,
Mm,
but I get that this thing really hurts you, but if you could let this go for me because I've done it for you, we'll be good.
mm,
And it's like we have such a hard time doing that because we're tied to so many other things. We are tied to so many other gods.
yeah.
We idol a lot of different things, regardless of subconscious or intentional or unintentional. And so, for me, I was tied to a lot of things. That was in the way of that was in the way of forgiveness. Built up anger, bitterness, um, not trusting God, not trusting people.
Mhm.
Um, being addicted to pornography, because that would be my stress reliever. I would run and, like if I get stressed out, oh my God, this thing is stressing me out. I'm going to the bathroom and masturbate or whatever. And so like
And that was before we
that
were
was
married.
before. God
People
definitely,
even struggle with that
yeah,
in
in their
marriage
marriage,
too. Like
obviously.
that's
Yeah, yeah,
real.
yeah.
But yeah.
God delivered me, thank God. And that was one of the things I was really working hard on. I did not want to enter my marriage and have that be a thing that my wife has to ever deal with.
Mhm.
But yeah, man. So like life,
Sorry.
it's good. Life after is still a lot to work through,
Still process.
but it makes the process of understanding God and seeing Him in many different ways a lot. I don't say easier, but it just makes I get to experience God more than the average person, I guess, in a sense. Not to say
What
like
are you saying without forgiving?
no, because like I'm saying the average person because imagine the average person not doing what you living up to your standards or to the boundaries you have within your friendship.
Yeah.
Like you can be cool with a lot of people, but they can't be your friends, right? And so it's like there's a certain access you get to have because you understand a certain mind, you have a certain mindset.
Yeah.
And so like yeah, like there's certain rooms you can get to, and you can be surrounded by millionaires and billionaires based on your mindset and the value you have. But if you can't do the same in a relationship with God in that dynamic, He's gonna be like, hey, we're cool. You believe in me, you're great, you'll get to heaven, but if you really want to be cool with me and see my
Yeah. Yeah.
ways
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have more access to me, you have to be willing to give up this. And
Hmm.
not a lot of people are willing to give up
That's a
when it comes
boundary
to
for
that.
him.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm getting at with it. It's not like I'm a special Christian. I'm like, oh, I'm better than, no, I'm not, if anything. So like, but that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
Okay. For me, I would say that forgiving and like learning how to forgive, um, has brought more intimacy with God. The same. It's made me feel more, like God actually has my back
Yeah.
in a sense because it's like even though I was trying to vindicate myself in certain situations or hold unforgiveness, and this is more than just more people in my life, that I've had to forgive, that I've had to forgive myself, and that's something I'm still working on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's definitely opened me up. It's opened me up to understand that you can make a mistake and life can go on.
Yes. Absolutely.
That really taught me that lesson of like it's okay, you can make a mistake and God will still help you to get on the right path. Like I was watching a video and the speaker in it, he was like, there is never anywhere where you can go that if you release yourself to God that he can't get you out of.
Yeah, absolutely. And then God is so big that there's no mistake you can make that would disrupt His will for you.
Yeah.
Like it's out of you. Obviously, you have your own choices, right?
Hmm.
But He's so powerful. No matter how much mistakes you make, He can still bring you back in a detour and
Yeah.
make you reach the vision that you have, the dreams that you have.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing.
Yeah. That's 100%. Yeah, man, it definitely freed a lot of areas
Hmm.
and even though it's like, okay, it's still a journey, like
Right.
we're still being perfected every day. Until we're on this earth, we still gonna be in a process. So
Yeah.
it just brought that for me, like, man, it's a process. Life is a process. And yeah, it's definitely brought me more peace, more internal joy, and more like what's it called? And this might sound weird, but if deal with have if you've dealt with anxiety or just all those stuff, you might understand what I'm saying. But just like feeling the right to your own emotions,
Yeah.
because I can bring when I have unforgiveness, I can bring it to God and God can say, hey, this is real. What you're feeling is real.
Right.
Because when I'm identifying it, I'm trying to convince myself that this is
Yeah.
not
That's all I'm
real.
asked.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I think
Yeah.
just to bring this all into
Yeah.
a whole summary, when you forgive, you will learn how to be more transparent.
Yes. Come on.
Honestly, and the process
It's
of
so
forgiveness
good.
brings you through transparency. There's no way
Mhm.
you cannot avoid that. It's impossible. You either have to be transparent with God, or you're gonna with the person you have an issue with, or you're having a hard time forgiving. They're gonna end up being transparent with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's a good
I
way to
think
end it.
that's
Yeah,
that's a great
yeah.
that's a great sentence.
Hey, man.
All right. Yeah, so thank y'all for tuning in
Yeah,
to
man.
this episode.
It was great.
Yeah.
Until next time, family. And we're out. Peace.
Peace, y'all.